In this podcast episode, Joe Rogan hosts Timothy Alberino, an investigator and author deeply engaged with topics surrounding giants, ancient civilizations, biblical traditions, and archaeological mysteries. Their wide-ranging conversation explores the enigmatic Kandahar giant from Afghanistan, the history and lore of giants across different cultures, archaeological findings, particularly in Sardinia and Peru, the nature of megalithic architecture, genetic anomalies like elongated skulls, the possibility of lost advanced civilizations, and the profound mythic and theological implications of these ancient narratives. Timothy begins by recounting the intriguing story of the Kandahar giant, a purported giant humanoid corpse, estimated to be between 10 to 12 feet tall and weighing roughly 1,100 pounds, discovered during military operations in Afghanistan in 205. This giant allegedly had red hair, 6 fingers and toes, and a rock-solid body. The story is based on eyewitness testimony from an active-duty C-130 pilot who transported the giant's body under strict intelligence supervision. The surrounding accounts describe a cave where a team hunting Taliban soldiers encountered and were killed by this enormous being, prompting a second team to be sent to neutralize it. The giant's corpse was then shipped out, rumored to have ended up at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, a place already reputed for storing alien and anomalous artifacts. Government officials and military personnel reportedly react nervously or refuse to discuss this subject, indicating a possible cover-up. Despite official Pentagon statements denying the incident, similar stories and corroborating accounts have circulated among military insiders and congressional staffers, suggesting that this is a secret or sensitive matter. Rogan and Alberino speculate on the reasons for such secrecy, linking it to broader occult or esoteric concerns rather than simple fear of discovering large humans, who do exist but not of such formidable proportions. Moving beyond modern reports, Timothy delves into the pervasiveness of giant legends and archaeological findings across cultures and continents. From biblical accounts of the Nephilim, Anakim, and Rephaim to Native American tales of 6-fingered red-haired giants, the motif of giants is universal. Historically, archaeologists have occasionally uncovered oversized bones, sometimes misidentified as extinct megafauna like mammoths or giant sloths, but many alleged giant skeletons come with artifacts such as jewelry and coins that hint at a human origin. The mythos of giants is deeply embedded in ancient Near Eastern religious practices. Alberino highlights the rite of Kispum, an ancient necromantic ceremony wherein living communities sought to commune and venerate the spirits of deceased giants, believed as possessing entities and integral figures in esoteric cults, including Baal worship. He suggests a thread linking ancient giant veneration to ongoing occult practices, even referencing conspiratorial elements involving elite occultists and modern scandals. One of the most compelling archaeological hotspots connected to giants is Sardinia, which houses thousands of colossal neurologic towers and megalithic tombs called the Tombs of the Giants. Timothy describes these Bronze Age cyclopean structures built between roughly 3300 and 1200 BC, characterized by massive stone blocks fitted with remarkable precision without mortar. The tombs are not just burial places, but sites for a rite of incubation, where adolescent boys entered them for ritualistic empowerment by the spirits of the mighty ones buried beneath. Alberino shares first-hand interviews with former official excavators who uncovered skeletons and artifacts associated with giants, including oversized skeletons adorned with jewels and Roman coins. There are accounts of the local authorities confiscating or even destroying such finds, keeping the discoveries hidden. These stories reinforce the idea of systemic concealment and suggest that ancient giant remains and the related culture continue to be regarded with secrecy. The discussion broadens to include legends and historical records of giants in South America, particularly Peru and Ecuador. Indigenous chroniclers during the Spanish conquest narrated stories of giant beings with red hair, immense stature, and cannibalistic tendencies, often exterminated by divine floods or divine wrath. While many purported skeletal finds in regions like Santa Elena could be explained by megafaunal remains, some descriptions, especially from Jesuit accounts, reference mummified giant bodies clothed in regal garments, standing apart from misidentified prehistoric animals. Alberino recounts how Peruvian archaeologists discovered extensive references to giants in historical archives, indicating that the giants were considered progenitors by some native cultures. Spanish chroniclers documented the destruction of giant idols and veneration sites, illustrating a tension between known history and religious impositions that sought to eradicate these narratives. Timothy and Joe discuss the scientific recognition of a catastrophic event around 11,000 BC, often called the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, positing comet or asteroid strikes causing massive environmental upheaval, including flash-freezing megafauna such as mammoths and mastodons. The evidence includes preserved frozen specimens with undigested food, soil layers rich in iridium, carbonized biomass, and nuclear glass particles akin to those formed by nuclear blasts. This event likely precipitated massive extinctions and forced a cultural reset, erasing or burying advanced civilizations. The podcast suggests the civilization that fell may have either been technologically advanced or at least culturally sophisticated, as supported by the ubiquity of megalithic constructions worldwide and ancient myths of catastrophic floods. Delving into architectural marvels, the conversation highlights the extraordinary constructions of Sardinia's Nuragic Towers, Peru's Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, Egyptian pyramids, and others. These showcase Cyclopean masonry with massive, intricately fitted stones, some curved into arches, impossible feats for traditional understanding of ancient technology. Alberino discusses an Italian engineering study suggesting that the Great Pyramid of Giza might be far older than the accepted 2560 BC, based on erosion patterns that align with dates in the Paleolithic era, potentially over 20,000 years ago. This would radically upend archaeological timelines and challenge current frameworks. The hosts contemplate how these structures were built, why later civilizations, such as the Inca or Spanish colonizers, failed to replicate or understand these ancient techniques, and why such knowledge might have been lost due to a cataclysm that leveled past civilizations, subsequent cultural degradation, or deliberate suppression. The conversation shifts to the Paracas culture of Peru, renowned for elongated skulls exhibiting extraordinary cranial volume and morphological differences from typical modern humans. Timothy discusses how these skulls are sometimes falsely credited solely to head-binding practices, but some skulls display structural differences impossible to attribute to mere deformation. They were diminutive in stature, yet had significantly larger brain cases and unusual neck attachments, suggesting potentially different species or subspecies within hominins. He recounts 3D scans showing these skulls' expanded orbital sockets and unique finger and toe structures, raising questions about their abilities and evolutionary origins. This leads to speculation about whether such populations could have possessed special sensory or intellectual attributes. Timothy recounts his field visit to Peru's Eco Museum, where controversial mummies with 3 fingers and toes, elongated skulls, and unusual physiology are housed. Despite initial intrigue regarding some figures like Maria, skepticism prevails due to the dubious origins of these remains, which trace back to grave robbers known for elaborate hoaxes. Though scientific testing has been conducted, interpretation remains contentious, with some anatomists pointing out anatomical inconsistencies, such as improperly articulated hands and feet. The monetary value and secrecy surrounding these finds raise further suspicion about their authenticity, although representatives sincerely believe in their legitimacy, adding to the ongoing debate between believers and skeptics over these enigmatic specimens. A significant portion of the conversation explores ancient textual traditions, chiefly the Book of Enoch and related biblical narratives. Alberino elaborates on the Watchers, biblical sons of God, or celestial beings who descended, interbred with human women, and produced the Nephilim or giants. These hybrids became violent and cannibalistic, prompting divine intervention through a great flood and a fratricidal war among giant clans. This narrative parallels other mythologies, such as Plato's Atlantis story, where gods divided lands, procreated hybrids, and engaged in war, culminating in cataclysmic destruction. The podcast suggests these myths represent cultural memories of a lost empire of the gods or a pre-flood advanced civilization that was violently extinguished. Further, Alberino argues that these watcher traditions are foundational and ancient, older than Sumerian flood myths, and that the degeneration of humanity from an initial perfected state accords with theological views of devolution from an original idealized creation. He also touches on the possibility of latent human abilities like telepathy and communal consciousness that have diminished over time. The discussion concludes with a reflection on humanity's decline through genetic mutational load, resulting in deteriorating physical health, intelligence, and fertility. Modern science reveals shrinking sperm counts and increasing reproductive difficulties, suggesting that natural human reproduction may become untenable within decades. Alberino contrasts this genetic decline with technological advancement, noting a divergence where human biology weakens while our capacity for artificial augmentation improves. This leads to a vision of a post-human apocalypse, where humanity might need to rely on technology to survive or transcend its biological limitations, raising ethical and existential questions about transhumanism and the future of human evolution. Timothy Alberino's work, including his books like Birthright and commentary on the Book of Enoch, is accessible through various social media platforms such as Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, and YouTube under his name.